Hi everyone and welcome back to Chess for Charity. In this video, we are going to try to solve a logic chess puzzle to see which of these two solutions works. Okay, so just in case the thumbnail was not clear, the goal of this puzzle is to figure out what color this pawn is. So it's either white or black, we know it's one of those two, and we have to figure out which one it is. Now, the condition that we're told is that any piece can start on a color square, like a dark square, and it has to move to a square of that same color. In other words, going from a dark square to a light square for any piece or pawn is not allowed, and the same goes for a light square to a dark square. So it essentially has to stay on the same color the entire time. Okay, so with that information, that's actually enough to solve this puzzle. So I'm going to keep flipping back and forth here between black and white. So let's just think about how we can begin to even approach this puzzle. All right, one thing you have to think about right away is these pawns. You say, okay, I see these pawns here on D2 and F2. These are going this way, by the way. And you go, okay, so I know I have to stay on the same color, which means that a bishop move, for example, that would be allowed, right? Bishop moves are allowed. Rook moves, those would be allowed as long as I stay on the 3rd, 5th, and 7th rank. The knight would not be allowed to move anytime because anytime a knight moves, it switches color. The queen, well, she can move. She can just stay on light squares, right? She can go here, here, all over the place, but ultimately just a light square piece. The king is on a dark square. So this king has to be able to walk out, right? And that's where you might stop and go, well, wait a second here. How did the king get over here? And this is kind of the crux of the puzzle. Okay. So, like I said, in this position, you don't have to work your way up to this. You have to assume that the knights got captured and all these pieces got captured following the rules. And you have to say, okay, how is it possible for this to work? How is it possible for the king to get out here given the rules? And if that is the case, would this be a white pawn or a black pawn? Can I conclude from the king being out here the color of this pawn? It's amazing. And of course the answer is yes. That's why I'm showing it. It's a beautiful logic puzzle. This is why chess and logic are so fun together. That's why I like making these videos. Okay, so I'll just stick to white and go to black if we need to. Just I have the two tabs open for anybody wondering. Okay, so the king started here, and we know that the king had to get out. Well, how would that have worked? The king can't go out this way, and if it were to go on E2, D1, or F1, that's breaking the rules. So how do we get out? Well, remember, there are other rules in chess. There's castling, and that would move the king. So let's think about that. So if you're not familiar with castling, let me just show that really quickly in case you're new to chess. Castling is when you move your king over 2, and then the rook hops right over on the other side. Right? So technically you move like this, and then all in one shot, the rook goes over. Right? I'm in a setup position, which is why I'm moving them individually. But if you were to play on a real chessboard, you pretty much just drop your king right there, and it works. So it would be moving your king to G1 and moving your rook to F1. That's what castling is. So we ask ourselves, is it possible that this king castled, and would that have fixed it? So let's just say, let me just show it again. Let's just assume the king is on E1, and the rook is on A1. There's also a rook on H1. So let's just say, for instance, I castled queenside, right? Because I can get my king out this way. If I castle queenside, is that allowed given the rules? Well, remember, the rule is I move 2, and then the rook hops over. That's castling. Okay, well, look what just happened there. My rook that was on A1, which is a dark square, is now on D1, which is a light square. That means it's not possible, right? That breaks the rule. Okay, now I have 2 kings on the board just to show that this king has to eventually get here. So then you say, okay, this is out. That doesn't work because that breaks the rule. I can't go from A1 to D1. Doesn't work. What about the other way? If I go on E1 and I castle, I arrive on G1, and my rook on H1 that's currently on a light square hops over to F1. That's allowed. That's the way I got out, right? That must have been it. And at some point, this rook got captured. Okay, but that doesn't actually answer how I got here. So let's think about that. Let's kind of see if you can figure that out. So if my king is on G1, how would the king get out? Well, this is actually kind of the easier part of the puzzle. If you were able to figure out, before I showed everything, that you had to castle king side, that's the right side. This is the side the king's on. This is the side the queen's on. That's why we typically call this queen side, this king side. If you castle king side, that keeps the color complex that the puzzle we have intact. And then the only way to get out from there would be to take the king and to walk it up the board like this, right? Something like that. It doesn't have to be exactly this path. You can do it however you want. Well, if that's the case, this pawn, this white pawn, couldn't be there, because if it was there, I would never get out. Therefore, the answer has to be that it's a black pawn, and that's the answer. So the final idea is I castled like this. At some point, this rook got captured, and at some point, this pawn, I guess, would have been here, because I can capture this way, right? This guy jumped around. However, it doesn't matter. When the pawn captured something, the point is to show that this is possible, right? You don't have to show exactly how you got to this position. But that's the idea. This pawn must have started here and just captured. That's fine. So, who knows, right? I don't know how that works, but that's the answer to this puzzle, is you proved that it can't be white. It has to be white or black. Well, that means it has to be black, right? And castling on the king side preserved the color structure you were looking for. And then the only way you can walk out to this is if this pawn was not white but black, because that would let you have this extra little square here before this pawn moved its way here. And like I said, that pawn would arrive there by a series of captures, I would imagine. Or it could have captured this way, captured this way, captured this way. There are all sorts of ways it could have happened. Maybe this way, right? Doesn't matter. The point is that it's here. So that's it. That's the answer. I think that's so cool that from this limited information, you can make all these deductions about the game. And you could say, okay, I know the rule is I can't change colors. It's just such a cool intersection between logic and chess. And that's why I love it. And that's why I wanted to share it. Hopefully anybody out there who's interested enjoys it as well. But that's it for this video. I do a lot of chess puzzles and all sorts of stuff for charity as well. So if you like it, please be sure to subscribe. Thanks so much. Bye.